Welcome to another episode of Coffee Breaks with Becky. I'm Becky. I am a licensed attorney in California. I practice exclusively family law, so for divorces and child custody mostly. Today we are going to talk about custody and parenting plans. So grab your cup of coffee and let's get into it. First, let's talk about custody and what it means. There are two types of custody. Most people are aware of this, but let's just talk about it anyway. There's legal custody, and that's where you have the rights to make decisions about the health, education, and welfare of your children. And in each type of custody, legal and physical, there are sole and joint. So in legal custody, where you're making the decisions about the health, education, and welfare of your children, joint custody would be where both parents have the right to make those decisions jointly. I mean, if you think about when you're together with the parent of your child, any of those decisions you would make together. And sole legal custody would actually give the right to make those decisions to only one parent, excluding the other parent from being able to make those choices. So if you think about that, excluding one parent from being able to make choices about their child's education or their child's health is a pretty big deal. So courts really don't like to do that unless the parent who is being excluded is really very irresponsible or putting the child in danger, or maybe has an addiction problem. I mean, there's other reasons, but those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head, where they might not be able to make the best, maybe they're not making the best choices for themselves, so a court might not believe they'd actually make the best choices for their child. And then the other type of custody is physical custody, and that's really where the child resides. And again, joint custody is when really the child lives with both parents. Maybe lives at one house more than the other, but in the eyes of the law, joint custody is the child lives with both parents. Sole custody is typically where there really isn't any contact or visitation or anything with the other parent. So again, it's pretty rare. I mean, there has to be pretty good circumstances in front of the court to make a finding where where a parent should be granted sole custody. And it's kind of funny because almost a fair amount of clients come to me and want sole custody, sole legal and sole physical custody. And I talk to them about the circumstances, and almost all of them I have to kind of redirect their expectations because the other parent isn't inherently bad or unfit for a court might make that finding of sole legal or physical custody to one parent. So it's more trying to get people to get past their anger and finding every little thing that could be cause in their mind for no visitation. So it's about redirecting and educating people so that they understand what they can expect from court. Now, if there's a case for sole legal and sole custody, and I've had cases that are like that, I will definitely argue for that. It's always what's in the best interest of the child. So even though I'm representing a parent, I'm still looking at what's best for the child, because that helps me create a strategy. So that's custody. So now, if you have joint custody, joint legal, joint physical, you're probably going to have to come up with a parenting plan. And it's gone from the term visitation, which still can be used, but the courts, I guess there may be a negative connotation if you think about visitation. So it's more like different parenting time, or in the eyes of the law, it's the same thing, but especially a non-custodial parent might think visitation sounds harsh versus parenting time. So anyway, there are different popular, I don't know, more frequent or more standard, excuse me, types of visitation schedules. I know I just said don't say that, but whatever. Are, every other weekend to the non-custodial parent. Now, when I say custodial parent versus non-custodial parent, it's simply the parent. Custodial parent is the parent that the child is with more frequently. So in a case of 50-50, there might not be a custodial parent. I think that's, I'd have to look that up. I don't know if that's a really important designation, but so one parent would have the child every other weekend, and then maybe one evening for dinner during every week. That's a standard visitation plan. Week on, week off. Most people have heard of that. I'm not personally in favor of that for small children. I think teenagers can handle that better, maybe even like preteens. But I think little kids just really need more frequent contact, in my opinion. Again, it's a child by child, case to make. I actually like, and it sounds really confusing until you write it down, but I really like the 5-5-2-2 schedule. It technically ends up with one parent gets, say, every Monday, Tuesday, the other parent gets every Wednesday, Thursday, and then weekends alternate. That's the easiest, simplest explanation of that. It's kind of more frequent transition, so the child has to be able to handle that. But then the child is not ever going more than 5 days without seeing the other parent. And another one maybe is week on, week off with 1 day during the week where the child spends with the other parent. So then really it's only 3 or 4 days without seeing each other parent. So that, there are many, many, many ways to set up visitation schedules. It really is about what works for you, your ex-partner, the child, their extracurricular activities, your work schedule, their work schedule. There's so much that goes into creating a parenting plan that works, and it's worth it. It's worth it to hash out all of that and put it in a parenting plan. Parenting plans often include holidays. What's going to happen for the holidays? Standards usually are odd years. Parent A gets the child on Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve, and on odd years, parent B gets Christmas Day, and then it switches every other year. So every other year, one parent would get Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. Then the other years, you wouldn't get Thanksgiving, but you'd get Christmas Day. And it's about what's important to you as far as holidays. Some people don't really care one way or the other if they get Labor Day or 4th of July or whatever. Some parents care very much. Some parents aren't really worried about whether they get the child on their own birthday. Some parents care very much. Mother's Day and Father's Day usually go how like it sounds. So parenting plans often include holidays, includes time for vacations, and then during the child's school year. What's going to happen with it, it's like almost, if you think about it, it's kind of like a contract about what we're going to do with our child as they grow up. Here's our visitation, here's the plan for visits, here's the plan for holidays, here's the plan for vacations, here's the plan if we want to switch time. That's also a good thing to include in a parenting plan, because things happen and stuff comes up, and honestly, the more you include in this, the less chance for conflict there is down the road. So if you say, if something comes up and I need to switch a weekend, what are what would the terms be for that? What would make you happy and what would make me happy and be the easiest on the child? Is it a week notice? Is it a month notice? Is it will you never agree to it ever? That kind of thing. What if your child plays sports? Do both parents support it? Are both parents equally willing to get the child to extracurricular activities? If you have the child on, Tuesday, Thursday, and they have baseball practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, are you going to take the child to those 2 days during your time? Some parents don't want to do that. Some parents don't want to give up the time they have with their child for sports or for extracurricular activities. I feel very strongly about extracurricular activities and how important they are for children. So I try to counsel my clients to really think about why maybe they're digging their heels in about not wanting to participate, or I think extracurricular activities are very good for kids, and it gives them a sense of normalcy. And if you can take your child to practice, they're going to look back on that, and it's gonna help them be about a grown up. And that's kind of in my mind, that's a parent's job, is to help raise their child in the best way they can so that they can be a good grown up. So anyway, that's kind of the basics on parenting plans. You might want to include also where is a child going to go to school, especially if it's a 50-50 situation, because and you don't live in the same school district. That might be something that needs to get hashed out. But again, the more you put in your parenting plan and agree to, the less chance for conflict there is down the road. Being able to co-parent cooperatively doesn't mean you have to like the other person. It just means you have to be able to be civil with them, and it's like operating a business. I mean, just think of it as you got to work like a well-oiled machine so that for the best interest of your child or children. So just the more you can put in there, that will lessen the risk for conflict down the road. I mean, your situation and what types of things might cause conflict. If you both love sports and you're both completely supportive of any sports that your child or children want to play, that's never going to be an issue. Don't put it in there. It doesn't need to be in there. I mean, it's really, or it can be. I mean, it just doesn't really matter. It's making sure that your parenting plan is the best representation of how you are going to co-parent, and time and expectations to get your child through their childhood. And they can evolve, and they can be changed, and they can be modified, and if it's not working, and both parents need to be able to be aware of what may be working and not working for their child, and I guess my biggest thing is when people, if it's not working for your child, rather than hang on and say, I need to have, this is my time regardless if it's working for the child or not, or it's, you have to step back and figure out things that it doesn't, if something's not working for a child, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to give up time, or you have to, it just means let's figure out what the best solution is, and maybe it's just shifting the time around. So you still have the same amount of time, but it's shifted now something that works better for the child. So, for example, say 5-5-2-2 isn't working. Try the every other week with the switch in the middle for one night. It's about that. It's about cooperatively co-parenting. So anyway, that's all I have for today. As always, please send me any questions that you have. Everything's always anonymous. I don't know if I mention that every time, but I should. I will never say names or anything. I might say a location so that maybe or I could send you a message and let you know that I'm going to be talking about your question. You can send me topic ideas. If there's a topic you want me to cover, let me know. And you can find me on social media, Facebook and Instagram are at Abraham Family Law. Twitter is Abraham Family LA. And my website is www.abrahamfamilylaw.com. And if you like this video, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and share it with your friends if you know anybody who this would be helpful for. And if you need a family law attorney in California, give me a call for a 30-minute initial phone consult, and I can get that scheduled for you. All right, have a great week and enjoy your coffee, and I will see you next week. Have a great day.